guys, Foxy Bird here. I am finally back. I know it's been a couple weeks. I've had some things in the works and finally getting something out here. I promised you guys I would do a video on Archie, and that's what we're going to do tonight. So I'm sure that I'm not the only one out there that's asking, who's Archie? And where is Archie? And we don't get it, right? So we haven't even seen Archie since the South Africa tour. Not really, unless you want to count the very suspicious pap walk in the forest in Canada a few weeks ago, but I don't know. I've got my doubts. So I wanted to go over 3 main theories of Archie. So we haven't even seen a photo since the New Year's photo. If you don't count the Canada video, we haven't seen anything about Archie for that long. So I know you guys are gonna say these are private people, especially now, and they can do what they want. They don't have to show their kid. Okay, except that they're like still somewhat taxpayer funded. Well, that's a whole different conversation. But their security is taxpayer funded. And yes, I do respect people's right to privacy. I totally do. I just think this is like way shady. I also don't buy the privacy thing because, come on guys, we know Meghan by now. She loves the spotlight, really. I know that there are plenty of stars, like Hollywood celebrities that they'll go on screen any day, they'll do interviews, they'll go on red carpets and whatever, and then they keep their family privacy. Then they keep their I swear I can speak English, just not on camera. Then they keep their family private, and I think everyone respects that. But you have to remember, like, these circumstances are a little different. So first of all, at first I should say they were publicly funded, right? So then nobody's asking, for them to share all sort of details and, present Archie to the cameras all the time. That's not what we're saying. Because if you look at Kate and Will's children, that's probably the best comparison. You hardly ever see them. They decide when you see their children. They just did their quick intros at their birth, and then they'll bring them out once in a while. I actually got to see them, the 2 oldest in person, George and Charlotte. So that was really cool. But yeah, so they get plenty of privacy. And with the reports coming out now about, Harry doesn't want to raise his son in the royal family, and he wants, he wants him to have more privacy than that, more, to be safe from all that and to have protection and stuff. I'm sorry, but those royal kids are some of the most protected kids ever. So anyway, don't buy that story. What I do think is a very distinct possibility is something that a lot of people thought was pretty crazy, and a pretty marginal view until the fiasco in Canada. Again, that pap walk in Canada, and people started, I think people started being like, oh wait, what's going on? So what I did was I divided the story up into 3 different theories. And here are the 3 theories. I just kind of wrote them out. That helps me. Hopefully it'll help you, because for me, visualizing stuff just, really makes it easier. So here we go. So we have the official story, right? The official Archie story, happily ever after, I like to call it. Meghan and Harry they fell in love and got married and got pregnant, and they had this beautiful baby, and now they're living their life with their family, all spending family time together and all that. Then there's the secret surrogate story, which is one of the more common ones, I think, among Mexiters, where Harry and Meghan use a surrogate, which every single Mexiter I've heard has had no problem with that. I would include myself in that category. So if they have used a surrogate, I would say more power to you, I don't blame them at all. So, yeah, so if they did, whatever, just it's not cool that they, lied to everyone, but that's a different story. Today, I want to focus on the last story, which I call the Fartu story. And that is that there is no Archie. So I don't necessarily hold to this view. I'm really between the surrogate story and the Archie doesn't even exist story. And I haven't fully like made a decision. I just think like the more things that happen, the more time goes by, the more that time goes by, etc., etc., I feel like they're looking for something a little bit more than like authentic privacy. Because I'm sorry, like, can you really buy that story when they're like looking for privacy and fame at the same time? I don't know. I just don't think so. So the Farchie story. A lot of people say that, you know, it would be too risky. I don't see the motive and this sort of thing. And what I say is, well, hear me out. Here are some of the things that kind of make me think that. And also, just in general, elites have done stuff that is like much more extreme than that. So on it than this. So honestly, this is like nothing, really. It's not that big a deal that they would like fake a baby completely. And so how would this have worked? Now, what I wanted to do in order to like make it kind of clear and organize it up a bit is break up the sightings of Archie into 4 categories and kind of like discuss those, right? So when have we even seen Archie? If you think about it, we haven't seen much of him. Again, if you want to go back to like real privacy, okay, fair enough. They showed him at Windsor, and you know, that's the end of it if they want it to be, you know. Plus that's South Africa, in South Africa. All right, so for the 4 the 4 things are, just ignore that. The 4 things are the 4 Archie sightings that we've had so far. So first time, of course, Windsor Castle, the presentation. The second time would have been the polo match. The third time would have been South Africa. And then the 4th time would have been Canada. So let's start with Windsor Castle. When they did the Windsor Castle thing, I'm not actually, by the way, I'm not going to go into huge detail just because other people have done videos on that, and I'm only trying to give my view, which is subjective, by the way, and it's just my view, and it's just, I'm speculating, and if, you know, tomorrow they like release an adorable video with a growing Archie, I don't even care, because this is just like fun for me, and it's fun to try to solve the mystery, and I don't really care if I'm right or wrong. So if you're looking for like, you know, like news, like information, factual stuff, I have some of this stuff obviously is fact, and then others just speculation. So it's fun for me. Hopefully it'll be fun for you. And I think some of us kind of enjoy, you know, kind of entertaining real life mysteries like I do. So yeah. Okay. So Windsor Castle, a couple of the Mexiters have pointed out around the time when they presented the baby, that it seemed kind of like a reborn doll named Darren. Now, I didn't find this information. It's on a few of the other channels. A lot of them discuss it. I know that Danger Zone, whose name is Ashley, she goes by that as well, it's no secret. She did some video on the possibility of him being this Darren doll, and a few others have done it, so you can go and like look at those videos. I'm not going to go into detail. However, if you go and look at those videos, go and look at pictures and stuff, it definitely is a spitting image. That baby didn't move at all. A lot of people talked about Harry's thumb going into you know, his body and stuff. I mean, even when Harry moved with him, he didn't move. He didn't flinch. You know, people talked about like Meghan touching his head and stuff like that. I don't think she seemed to touch it hard enough that it would like hurt that soft spot. So I don't really agree with that, and that's okay. But yeah, I mean, that just he didn't even breathe. It seemed like he just didn't move at all. And I know I've had a baby. I've seen many babies. I know that sometimes newborns, when they're first born, they can be very still, and they've got these little tiny shallow breasts. I understand that. So, you know, maybe we're seeing things. Okay, moving on though. So the polo match. Now, the polo match was interesting. A lot of people talked about, like, you know, having the baby out in the sun that long, no hat, etc., etc. Okay, I have no idea because I only saw like some really short clips. I I have no idea that she was out there for 3 hours, and I honestly don't think she would have been out there for 3 hours. I don't think she goes anywhere for 3 hours except where she really wants to be for 3 hours, and I kind of doubt the polo match was where she really wanted to be. I heard she doesn't like horses that much, but that could be totally wrong. Rumors. But anyway, so yeah, someone pointed out, it was on Twitter, I cannot remember who it is, so if it's you, take some credit. Sorry, I don't know who it was. It was some Twitter comment or post, and they were like, look at Baby Archie's foot. His foot doesn't move at all. It doesn't move positions at all. If you remember also, Meghan put out a picture of Archie's like feet when he was first born too, and they were kind of in the same position. They seemed to resemble some of those reborn baby dolls too. Okay? So, that was pretty interesting. He also didn't move, she pointed out. And I noticed that too, even like his face, like nothing really seemed to move, okay? And again, even his face, like to me, resembled some of these dolls that we've seen. So there's that. Take a look at the footage from the pole match, and that his foot does not move. And the person also said in like 3 different positions in 3 different parts of the footage. Okay. And photos. Next, of course, we have South Africa, and of course that was a real baby. He was really cute. I don't know whose he was, if he was theirs or whatever, I have no idea. However, I will say he wasn't necessarily theirs because he was in their arms. A lot of people said, he didn't seem to like interact with them much. He seemed to be looking off. He didn't seem to like really be theirs, and they didn't seem to be really comfortable holding him, etc., etc. There's been a lot of talk. You guys can go to some of the other channels that have a lot more stuff on them and find, I'm sure, plenty of things in detail. I just want to say like my impression, which is that maybe they could have either borrowed the baby from someone. And I know that sounds far-fetched to some people because normal people really just wouldn't do that. It's totally weird. However, again, elites and very, very wealthy people, they do a lot of scammy stuff a lot. A lot of this stuff there's tons and tons and tons of crazy stories out there. What people do, so honestly, it's not really that far-fetched. People are like, but no, that's so crazy. It's really not. And I mean, easy. It's like easy money, easy transaction. We just like borrow, your baby or whatever. And it would be some connections that they had, not like some total random stranger last minute. It's not what I mean. Could all have been like planned out. And so I think that's totally plausible. I also think it could be their baby. Again, going back to the surrogate idea, I totally think it could have been their baby. And just, have been born by a surrogate. I am not, by the way, entertaining any possibility that Meghan was ever pregnant, because she totally wasn't, because the whole moon bump thing, that was so obvious. You can see so much video footage, and there's so much information out there. There are tons of other videos about, with talking about like how she wore a fake bump and everything. Really obvious. I think probably the most obvious thing to me was probably when she wore her purple dress and red coat, and you saw like the bump like fall down, or at least really change size. And of course in New York when she walked out with Marcus Anderson and she had no bump. But weirder things have happened in the world. All right, so that's South Africa. I think I think it could have been their own baby, because to be honest, I do think it kind of looked like a mix between Harry and Meghan. But that being said, often when we think that a baby belongs to someone, we will like make those associations. I've heard of that with adopted kids too. I also, growing up, knew an adopted girl, and I remember always thinking she looked like her adoptive mom, who was not related to her at all. So I think it's definitely possible. But I do think that little baby did look kind of like a mix of them. He could possibly have their DNA and have been born by a surrogate. Okay, so South Africa. Now we have Canada.